Welcome to the Anti-Social Podcast. My name's Andy, as always. It hasn't changed. It might change later on down the track. Who knows? Depends on if my sexual preference changes or my gender decides to change. I won't go off on too much more of a tangent of that, but don't worry. I plan on just staying as I am moving forward. But anyway, I digress straight away. This month is our monthly catch-up, month to month with Milton. This is part 2. And we just did a bit of catching up, see what we were both up to over the last month. Milton went over some of his experiences with the 70,000 Tonnes of Metal Festival that he was very lucky to be a part of as a fan and watch a lot of the bands play and do a bit of partying as well. And we also talk about the Avantasia tour that Milton's involved with as well. So there's a bit of insight surrounding that. A lot of other things that we make mention of. We also just touch on the death of Peter from Riverside that happened a few days ago prior to this recording. And for people that aren't aware of the band, we will have links in the show notes for people to check out. But we spend a little bit of time talking about that and I guess doing whatever we can to show our respects. But it is a difficult thing to sort of to touch on, and we can only sort of show appreciation for the band and the music and the musician himself as well. And Milton's had a lot more of a closer connection than I've from my experiences, was lucky enough to see some of their set at ProgPower last year. But prior to that, I've never had any awareness of the band, to be honest, apart from seeing the name float around here and there. So ProgPower was really where I was introduced to the band. And so I think part of that will be quite special for me, because they're very different, and Milton describes them as a type of modern day Pink Floyd. And I thoroughly enjoyed what I did see at the festival. So we'll put some links in for people to check out, and we thought it was definitely appropriate just to make a mention in this episode about the unfortunate tragedy that's happened, and our respects go out to the band and everyone that's close to, including the family, of course, and whatnot. So we'll do what we can to pay homage and continue to spread the music around to more people, because I'm sure that everyone would appreciate that. As well as all of that, we have our usual little segments of our interactions with crazy people. We've got a couple of good stories there, and also we make mention of a couple of bands that we've picked out to plug as well for people to check out. So there's quite a bit in this. Apologies in advance, because I always apologise before an episode starts. I had some interruptions during this conversation with Milton. I'm at my new house down on the south coast of New South Wales, and I've just had somebody from the telephone company come and set up the broadband internet here. So unfortunately, the very, very old house that we I should say have bought is needs a little bit of TLC. So we've had to get somebody out specifically to get it all up and running. So there's a few times where I had to interrupt Milton to quickly run off and chat to the technician. But I'm sure our great friend Damien will clean that up as best as he can. But apologies in advance if the flow of the conversation goes off in a different direction or gets tripped up along the way. As always, all links to the conversation will be in the show notes. Always encourage you to reach out to Milton and have a chat to him. As you will know definitely by now, and this is the third conversation that I've had, but second in our month-to-month series. Milton's extremely down-to-earth and a great guy, and I'm sure that when he does have time, he'll be more than happy to answer any questions that people might have. And I think from my recommendation is, if you do enjoy what you hear and you learn something or get some great insight, then leave him a message, whether it be on the Infinity Concerts Facebook page or on his, or send him a message, and I'm sure he'll certainly appreciate it as well. Apart from that, I will touch base on a few details surrounding the podcast party and other details at the end of the episode. But I'll stop rambling on and making this more and more awkward as I go, because it is an extremely hot day here. There's a bit of a heat wave in Sydney today, and even down the coast in this very old house, and I've had to turn all the fans off just to avoid a lot of background noise with the mics. I didn't want to open any of the windows either, just to keep the sound, somewhat controlled. So as a result, I'm sweating. I'm in a sauna at the moment, so my train of thought is all over the place at the moment. So my apologies, but I really do hope you enjoy this next catch up with Milton. And as we've encouraged before, and we have had a few great suggestions, if you do think of something that you'd like to know more about, or a topic or anything that you'd like us to cover, please get in contact with either of us and let us know what you think, and then we can have a chat and work something out prior to the next time we get together and speak. But definitely let us know what you think, and continue to let Milton know if you're enjoying the chats as well. Anyway, enough rambling. Enjoy.
Strip club.
Good evening. So how's things?
Things are, it's been an interesting month since we last spoke. A lot of positive and a lot of negative stuff happening all at the same time. I think just to sort of bang out the negative out of the way, I am sure you heard that we suffered a tremendous loss in our Infinity Concerts / progressive metal / ProgPower everything family this past weekend. Good friend of ours and guitarist of the band Riverside passed away, unfortunately. So it was a bit of a tough pill to swallow, but life goes on, and we can only remember him and remember the music that he created, and him as a great person, and not much we can do.
It was a bit of a shock. I don't know what the circumstances were. I think it's still fairly private, but from what I can gather reading online, that it was definitely nothing that was leading up to that moment. It was something that was completely out of the blue.
It happened on Sunday, so it's been 3-4 days now, and I still don't know exactly what happened, even if I worked with them, in the capacity of booking agent and promoter and everything. I've spoken to their manager, who's also a very close friend of mine, Rob Talman. Hi, Rob. I hope you're listening to this. It was definitely completely unexpected, and not a whole lot of information has gone out yet. So, not that it really matters at this point. It's just a really tragic, a really sad thing to happen. So, yeah, my thoughts and my prayers go to his family, to his bandmates, and everybody else. So,
no, absolutely, and I know that it's quite interesting in Australia, because I don't think, unless you're a very, very sort of, dedicated progressive metal and rock fan, a lot of people in Australia, at least even just in the metal community, might not be as familiar with Riverside as people in the US or Europe would be. Mm-hmm. So, but I know that a lot of people, unfortunately, and it's always the case when a tragedy happens, that things start to get highlighted a lot more, and people realise that this band exists. Right. And I guess, there's always people that jump on the bandwagon when there's a tragedy, but I guess, unfortunately, and it's a really hard thing to say, but the weird silver lining of such a horrible event will be that there have been a number of people that have commented over the past few days of how amazing this band is, and how they never even knew this band existed, and I was just fortunate that I got to see a bit of their set at ProgPower as well, to experience what they were all about, because I had no idea who they were before I came over last year. Right. Yeah. So it's a real tragedy, but hopefully it just, the rest of the guys will be able to move on, in their own time, of course, and and then be able to make a decision as to what they do with the band or themselves musically and personally. So it'll be, we can only just sit and give them some space.
I mean, obviously, there's no question that the human loss, supersedes anything else. But it's sort of there's a lot of things that's something that a tragedy like that affects, obviously. So like you said, I haven't had a chance to any of the other guys in the band. I only spoke to Rob, to their manager, and it's way too early to tell what's going to happen. I know that it's kind of crazy, but this happened. I got the call about it Sunday morning, like 6:30 in the morning over here. And the plan was to announce their North American tour at 10 a.m. Monday, the very next day. So,
wow. Okay.
So it was, a day of calling a lot of the promoters, a lot of the people saying, hey, we're going to be canceling the shows for obvious reasons, But everybody was very grateful. Everybody was very understanding, obviously, how could you not, I haven't ever had an experience with a promoter that, got angry over a cancellation for whatever reason. I didn't think this particularly would be the first time that would happen.
Yeah.
But I know what you mean in regards to people. To sometimes it takes something like this for people to learn about the band or to learn about the artist or to I don't want to call it jump in the bandwagon either, because a lot of the times it's genuine. A lot of the times the person truly did not know about their work and only came to find out about it once the artist had died. So, I can tell you that I'm sure their albums and stuff are probably moving, a little bit faster right now. And the only thing I can think is, compared to like what happened to David Bowie recently. I just remember the very day after the news of his death came up, all of a sudden, a lot of the stores had his albums sold out and all that kind of stuff. Same thing with Michael Jackson and so on and so forth. So I think it's just natural human reaction to something like that. I don't know. I can't say I've ever partaken in that. Holy crap, somebody is dead. I gotta buy all of their movies. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I can, without sounding too much like a cynic, I can understand that some people would do that. But regardless of the reasons, it's just very, very sad. Peter was a really, really nice guy, and one of the most important elements in that band. So I know everybody else is crushed. So
absolutely.
Very unfortunate, but life goes on.
It does, and I guess as they wrote initially on their Facebook page, it was more of a case of this is the facts and this is what's happened, and for the meantime, more or less, just give everyone a bit of breathing space, and I think that's all that everyone can do, and pay their respects in the way that they can online, and sharing what he's been a part of for a number of years, and sit back and give them their own time to regroup and work out what they're going to do personally and professionally and go from there.
Right, exactly. I think it's very clear, especially from, at least for me, and I know from Rob, from the manager at the time, we obviously we're involved in the business side of things, but that's the last thing we want to try to push upon, the band and upon the people. So whatever happens, whatever is meant to happen will happen, I guess. I really wanted to take, the opportunity over here in your podcast and our monthly catch up to, just extend my sentiments to the band and to the family, and to, remind them that we're thinking of them. You know?
Absolutely. And I think what I can do on my end is add a few little links on the show notes as well. So for people who aren't aware of who he is and what Riverside have all been about, we can put a few selective tracks, and maybe something that a personal favourite of yours we can put there as well, and people can reach out and have a listen and discover what they are and And
that'd be fantastic.
Probably the best way that we can pay our respects for the time being, anyway.
Yeah, if there's one thing I could say about touching on that real quick, I discovered Riverside back when their debut album was about to be released through Sensory Records, through Laser's Edge and Sensory, owned by my good friend Ken Golden over here in New Jersey. I remember running into him at a show or at a festival and him telling me, you need to pick this up, you need to buy this. This is a new band that I'm releasing, and I think it's gonna be really, really cool. You're gonna like it. And the best way I could describe it upon listening to it at the first time was, it's almost like the Pink Floyd of this generation from a musical perspective. It was a very atmospheric and dark and melancholic progressive metal, progressive rock, but there was a lot of attitude in it, and there was just so much beauty in it as well. And one of the things that always caught my attention was the guitar work in it. Because even though Peter wasn't playing, a billion notes per second like a lot of the progressive metal fans expect, but he could convey so much emotion in those solos and those leads, the little licks in between verses, the tone that he got out of his guitar. I mean, it was, I don't know, it just blew me away, right from the get-go. And I remember it actually, took me a couple of days to really, to dawn upon me, wow, I'm actually working with them now. And it's so cool, years later. I told you before, I like to work with bands that I enjoy the music. So there's a connection, But Riverside has always been one of my favorite bands. So it was very special to be able to do a tour for them last year. We got them in Brazil and Chile, here in the States, Canada. It was really cool. So I think, I think the music world in general has lost one of their greats, So I'm very honored to have been a very, very tiny little part of it.
Well, we'll put some links up, and anyone listening who's not previously familiar or has just seen the name and that's it can be introduced, and not the best of circumstances, but we'll try and add some positivity to it all and bring some new people into that family. Sure. Yeah, that'd be fantastic. Yeah. Sounds good.
But, moving on to some happier thoughts and some happier things.
Absolutely.
Like I said, there's a lot of cool things that were brewing the past month over here. I took a little trip down to Florida, into the Caribbean, in the 70,000 Tons of Metal cruise, the festival for a few days, and it was quite an experience. It was a good time, fun time for sure. A lot of bands and a lot of great people to spend time with and do some very good networking and meeting new people and so on and so forth. So definitely a good time.
And no doubt a lot of beer as well.
I'm sorry, say that again?
And no doubt a lot of beer as well.
Yeah, I obviously, I'm biased. I have my own sort of team to play for, but it was a good time. It's a well done festival, and probably the second best festival in the States.
I love it.
It's in the top. It's not quite the best, but it's in the top, I'd say. It's really cool. Great people, great bands. You're in a cruise in the Caribbean, so
very cool.
A lot of. I can tell you that one of the nights there was a lot of partying involved. So
I think I saw one picture of you. You were tagged in a photo of the next day, and with a couple of other people, and you all looked a little bit shady.
Well, to the best of my abilities to recall everything, I had a good time.
And before we move on from that, was there any highlights musically from any of the bands, anyone in particular that you hadn't seen before and was surprised, or just any old favourites that you got to see again?
Yeah, absolutely there were. I will say that, I saw as many bands as I could because it's tough to catch everything because, it's literally 60 bands playing 2 sets over the course of 3.5 days. So you have shows from, 10 in the morning all the way to 6 in the morning the next day. So the schedule is very, very, it takes a toll on you. But a couple of the bands that I saw that I was very impressed with, some of the bands that I really wanted to see, Catatonia, for instance. I saw both their sets. I thought they were fantastic. I watched Rhapsody of Fire. Been a big fan of them for a long time. And they are super good live as well. Fabio Leone on vocals is just, it's not even fair to other singers, The guy is just incredible. I got to see Firewind back after many years, and they did very well as well. They did really good. I enjoyed what I saw of Children of Bodom. I admit that I sort of gave up on the band, over the years, but good show. Other highlights, let me think of some bands that I didn't know about before or that I had. There was a black metal band called Shooter, and that's Sjuder. I'm not sure if I totally butchered their name or not, but very, very competent live band. Just a straight up true Norwegian black metal band, like a 3-piece. And their front of house guy, their audio guy, is Joachim Moeller.
Okay.
Who, and I also probably just butchered his name and last name. But he also works with Leprous,
yes,
which I work with. So it was first of all, it was a surprise to see him there, but I was very impressed with the fact that this was the clearest, best sounding black metal band I've ever seen in a live environment.
Oh, cool. All right.
I think it's credit due to both him and to the band, obviously. So that was impressive. I saw a band called Fallujah. It's a band from the U.S., and they describe themselves, if I'm not wrong, as atmospheric death metal. So it's, to me, it almost sounded like a modern sounding death metal band with Steve Vai on guitars.
Wow.
Putting all of those atmospheres, in the back of the guitar, very spacey, so to speak.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, that's what it sounded to me anyway. Like progressive death metal, a little bit of metalcore, tech death. I don't know what to describe them like. All I know is that I walked into their set, 2 minutes in, and I just stood there sort of in awe the whole time. I did not know about the band at all. There was an old school power metal, heavy metal band called Squealer that I honestly had never heard a single song before. I went to see them at 10 in the morning, and they also blew me away. So that was good. And my favorite band of the cruise was, ironically enough, Dragon Force. Right, okay.
And I will tell you why. Because there was such a party atmosphere during their set, both sets. And the band was all about it, and the fans were all about it, and there were so many other bands in the middle of the mosh pits, crowd surfing, stage diving, just having a great time. It was such a party. And I'm thinking, we're bringing Dragon Force to ProgPower, and I'm thinking, man, we need to recreate that atmosphere because that vibe was so cool. And I even spoke to Herman from Dragon Force afterwards, and he's all about it. And he's like, no, we're going to make this another show to remember. So I'm very excited. And I'm going to also take this opportunity to say to everybody who might be listening, even if you're not a Dragon Force that sounds stupid. Even if you're not a Dragon Force fan,
Yeah.
it's the beer and the wine.
Yeah.
Sorry. Even if you're not a Dragon Force fan, give them a chance at ProgPower because I think you will be surprised just on how much fun those guys are.
Absolutely. I've seen them a couple of times and regardless of listening to them sort of just with an audio, like just on CD or whatever it might be, regardless of that, if you do get the opportunity to see them, you can't deny them. They're one of the better
live bands out there at the moment, and they just, as you said, they create such an atmosphere on stage. And I've seen them about 3 or 4 times now over the years, and they've been fantastic every single time. They enjoy themselves on stage. They don't take it seriously, and they play their butts off, and it's great.
Yeah, and obviously there's a lot of people that troll Dragon Force online and everything all the time, and I think they sort of get in on that a little bit too. I think self-awareness is something that they have probably more than any other band. And I can say that by after speaking to Herman a few times and to Sam and to some of the other guys in the band, they get it. They know that a lot of people, kind of think them sort of as the goofball in the scene, But I honestly do think they're a very competent band. I think they're great guys. And, especially if you allow yourself a chance to, have a few drinks, they're going to be the band closing Wednesday night. I think you're in for a treat. I think it will be a lot of fun, let loose, leave all of the prog metal thing outside and just come have fun, join the party.
And a message from me for everybody who'll be there: don't get shitty if you see me fly off the stage and I'm stage diving and I land on you. I just thought of what you said before with people stage diving. I thought, oh well, if I have a few beers after our set, then I'll probably get a bit silly. But especially just to help with the party vibe.
It's so funny. On one of the nights that Dragon Force played on the cruise, that was my let's have a good time night type of thing, And I normally hate mosh pit. I hate crowd surfing. I hate stage diving or any of these things,
Yeah.
So I just remember, realizing that, wow, I'm stage diving. I'm crowd surfing right now. People are carrying me. And then I look to my side and I see my good friend Mark Jensen from the band Epica.
Yep.
Also crowd surfing. And he's looking at me and giving me the horns, and we're being, taken to the stage. And it was like, holy crap, what the hell am I doing? It's awesome.
Oh,
so it was, that was fun. So,
well, it'll be definitely something to look forward to.
Dragon Force was definitely a good time, and I think that sums up my 70,000 tons recap, I guess.
The second best festival in the US.
Yeah, I would say so. Up there, but not quite at top.
Fair enough. And look, they've got to learn from the best.
That's right.
That's cool. Well, I thought we were speaking a little bit earlier on about what to talk about, and I thought it might be a really good opportunity for you just to give a bit of insight as to what is involved or what is currently being involved to organise the upcoming Avantasia tour in North America, because I know you're looking after a few of the dates, and I think for a lot of people and a lot of people that aren't connected, I guess, directly in the music industry, who are probably more fans, or actually there's probably a lot of people even in the industry who don't know. I think a lot of people probably just think it's as easy as agreeing on a date and booking a venue and selling a few tickets, and that's about it. So I thought maybe you might be able to give a bit more insight as to what's actually involved to try and get this thing moving.
Sure. Well, this is, without a question, the biggest show I've ever been involved. Obviously, without counting ProgPower as a promoter, this is definitely a huge undertaking. I think first and foremost, it's always good to remind everybody that I'm not doing this on my own. I have two awesome companies that are my partners on the Avantasia show, and these companies are T-Present from the U.S., run by Tucker Christensen. He's a very prolific promoter here in the state and a good friend as well. And also Overload, which is run by Lucas and Gustavo, two great friends of mine as well from Brazil. I went to school with Lucas over here in the States, and they're one of the key players in heavy metal band in South America these days, and they're expanding into the U.S. now through a partnership with my company, with Infinity Concerts. So we are we're the people behind this nonsense of an undertaking called Avantasia. For those people who aren't aware, Avantasia is an all-star project put together by Tobias Sammet from Edguy. If you can imagine a power metal opera type of show with, 8 or 9 different singers, all, famous singers from, big names from the metal scene all over the world, and a fantastic band that sort of puts you in the whole, Broadway power metal musical type of thing, concept albums, and, it really is a huge metal opera, that started as a side project back in, I want to say the late 90s or the early 2000s, and now it became a massive touring band, performing these huge shows, all over the world. And everybody always said that Avantasia would never happen in the United States because of all the logistics, because of all of the costs. It was always sort of like an impossible thing, a dream, that crazy people had. It was very common to hear, well, you want to go see Avantasia, you're going to have to go to Europe. Go see them at a big festival type of thing.
Pretty much.
And then a few years ago, Avantasia did a one-off at a festival in Quebec City, Canada. That was sort of at the time that I was getting started, or maybe a little after I got started with booking and was promoting and stuff. And I just remember thinking, if they're playing in Canada, what's to say they'll never play in the States? And that sort of always kind of stayed in the back of my head, always like, kind of a dream, kind of a, hey, what if someday I reached out to them and said, let's make this happen. Let's make this dream into a reality type of thing. So it always kind of stayed in the back of my mind, but it also stayed in the back of my mind that putting this together would probably cost as much as my house cost. So it was one of those things that it was way too big of an undertaking for me to even consider it, But time went on, and I got a little more experience, and I got a little more confidence, and so on and so forth. I spoke to the other guys, to the partners. I'm like, Avantasia never played the States. I think if we sort of combine our forces, it might be worth, reaching out to them and seeing what happened. And everybody was like, let's try it. Let's see. So I reached out to their management and basically said, hey, I know you guys are playing a tour. There's a new album coming out. You've never been to the States. What would it take for it to happen, for a New York show? We agreed that, we should reach out and see what happens. So I sent an email to their management company, and I basically asked them, so we're interested in doing a New York show. What would it take? And the feedback was almost immediate. We want to do it. Let's talk. And the next thing you know, that crazy bit of a dream all of a sudden starts to actually look a little bit realistic, So we worked out the deal, worked out the date, and the next thing you know, I'm staying with an email saying, hey, we are confirmed for a show in New York. We'll accept your offer type of thing. And at that moment, it's like, shit. This is big. This is going to be huge. So it took a couple of months to get all of our ducks in a row, and it took a couple of months to get it all announced. But it was it's very special to be able to say that we're involved in this, undertaking and making something once thought impossible a reality.
Absolutely. It's it's just not your normal band.
What's that?
It's just not your normal band, so it just adds to it. It just makes it even more special. But I guess at the same time, even it potentially more stress as well.
Right. Like I said, it's an all-star project. So I'm going to tell you some of the people who are in the band, just so listeners get an idea. So it's led by Tobias Sammet from Edguy, like I said, the singer for Edguy. Okay, we're going to have also on stage Michael Kiske, former Halloween singer and Unisonic singer. We're going to have Eric Martin from Mr. Big, Ronnie Atkins from Pretty Maids, Jorn Lunde, known from Ark, Master Plan, Beyond Twilight from his solo career. You know, he sung with Malmsteen and, you know, all of those incredible artists. We have Amanda Somerville. We have Herbie Langhans from Sin Breed, Oliver Hartman from Advance, Sasha Pye, very, very famous guitarist and producer. You know, Mira Rodenberg. It's just, you know, a fantastic lineup. You know, Felix Blanca on drums, Andre Nigenfines on bass. It's ridiculous, you know? It's such a big undertaking because I don't think people realize that we're talking about, you know, a band of, you know, 14 people, 13 people in the band. So everything is massive. The show is massive. The stage set is massive. You know, we expect nothing less of an Avantasia show. And, you know, it's only fair that the band expects nothing less of their shows and of the people that they work with and so on and so forth. So it's a big undertaking, you know. It involves a lot of logistics. It involves a lot of strategizing. It involves a lot of money, obviously. But ultimately, we're making possible we're putting a show that will be in people's memories for the rest of their lives. You know, this could very well be the very only chance people ever have of seeing Avantasia here in the States. You know, there are two shows. Our show is the New York one. There's a show in Anaheim in California as well. And there's a show in Toronto in Canada as well that's being promoted by my good friend Noel Peters from Inertia Entertainment. Noel and I have worked many times before as well, so always good to do a shout out. So if you guys are in Canada and you can't make it to the States, go see Avantasia in Toronto. If you're in the States, definitely come see Avantasia in New York City. We have people flying in from all over the country. We have some people flying in from overseas actually for the show. The show takes place April 15th. It's a Friday night in New York City at the PlayStation Theater. And if you were in New York before ProgPower, the PlayStation Theater is in the heart of Times Square.
I walked past there, I think. King Diamond's played there before, and there's heaps of bands.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It was called the Best Buy Theater still. And they rebranded to the PlayStation Theater. It is the ultimate music venue in New York City for that size. I mean, it's in prime location. The venue is top notch. I mean, it's just fantastic. Sound is amazing. You know, infrastructure wise, it's amazing. You know, location wise, it's in the middle of Times Square, so yeah, it's in the middle of the touristy area, obviously, but it couldn't. I think we couldn't have picked a more special place for the show.
It'll definitely add to the atmosphere, won't it?
What's that?
It'll definitely add to the atmosphere, won't it?
It absolutely will. Yeah. It absolutely will.
Yeah.
You know, cool. But to go over some of the things that we do in a situation like this in the Avantasia show. Obviously, I'm not going to go too deep into a lot of the stuff, you know, just the normal business etiquette, I guess, but to give a good example, you know, you make an offer to the band and the band accepts it and you receive their rider, you know, which is basically everything they need to make the show happen, you know, and you as the promoter are contractually obligated to provide those things. So you have to provide a venue. You have to get the venue for the show, which means renting it for the day. You know, the band sends all of their tech specs, all of the backline equipment that they need, all of the lights equipment that they need, you know, the soundboard. I think this is all stuff that we have to go after and, you know, either rent it or provide it for the show.
Yeah.
You know, we're hosting the band, so obviously, you know, there's lodging, there's hotels, you know, transportation from airport to hotel to venue and back and forth. Catering requirements, you know, we're bringing 19 people. We're expected to feed them, obviously. You know, there's all of these things that are involved. Work visas for the United States. Yes, we're doing that too. So, you know, it's a lot of work and it's a lot of money and it's very stressful. I told you before that ProgPower for me as a co-promoter was very stressful. And this is probably even more, I must admit. Even if at ProgPower I'm dealing with so many bands, this is huge. This is just massive and crazy. And sometimes I ask myself, what the fuck am I doing? Trying to remember how many drinks had I had before I had this idea. But we have everything under control, and ticket sales are moving, and everything is pointing to the most special power metal concert this country has ever seen.
That's cool.
So we're super thrilled. We're super excited. We're super honored. And we really just want to share this evening with everybody, and we want to see everybody there because it will be a night to remember. It will be memorable. Advantasia is playing for 3 hours. There's no opening act. It's just them, and it's going to be so special, and it'll be very special.
That's cool. Well, I'll put a link to to purchase tickets on the website, so people can purchase.
That'd be great.
And what's the date of the show?
The show is Friday, April 15th, and if I'm not wrong, doors are at 7:00 p.m. and the show starts at 8:00 p.m. It's going to be held at PlayStation Theater, which is right on Times Square, right on Broadway, in the heart of Manhattan. There's limited quantity of tickets still available. So, like I said, this is the concert to go to this year in New York City. Right, actually, in the whole United States, you definitely want to go see, Advantasia for the first time in the U.S. Yeah, and you, Andy, obviously, you should try to join us as well.
Oh,
I know you.
Yeah,
it'd be fun.
I'll,
it's only what, 36 hours away.
Yeah.
Fine.
Oh well, that's not long, and I'll break open the piggy bank and get some money, some coins together, and buy a ticket. But, I'm very jealous. I'd love to be there, and I think for anybody who has the means to be there and hasn't got a ticket yet, you'd be crazy not to. But we'll put the links so people who are on the fence and haven't made the decision yet can access them and grab a ticket.
Yeah, I think if anyone wants to get an idea of what to expect, they recorded a live DVD at one of the festivals that they performed. I don't remember the year that they did that. I want to say maybe 2011 that they released it, and it's called the Flying Opera. And it has two live shows recorded in DVD. One was a Masters of Rock in the Czech Republic, and one was a Wacken Open Air in Germany. So if anyone wants to have an idea of what to expect, I strongly recommend checking out that live DVD. And I also strongly recommend Advantasia's new album that just came out last month through Nuclear Blast Records. The album is called Ghostlight. And it's an incredible release. It has other guests aside from the ones that I mentioned that are going to be at the show. There's some people who are not going to make it to the tour, but that are on the album, like Dee Snider from Twisted Sister, Jeff Tate of Operation Mindcrime, formerly Queensryche, Sharon Denadel from Living Temptation, Mark Wayetala from Nightwish. There are just some, Bob Catley from Magnum. There are just some fantastic singers on that, and definitely worth checking it out.
Cool. Well, I'll add some links there, and I did see you post a video of one of the songs that might have been Scarecrow live from the DVD.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll throw that one up on the show notes as well, so people can get a taste of what it's all about, and I'll put some links to the new album as well. So it's
awesome.
It's an amazing project considering where it's all come from and the origins of Ed Guy and whatnot, and to see it become such a dramatically huge thing is quite cool to see. So very envious of you to be a part of something that's very, very special for the metal scene in New York and across the United States.
Absolutely. And like I said, I find it very unlikely that people will get an opportunity to see them again here in the States anytime soon. So I think it definitely worth a quick trip to the Big Apple.
For sure.
Plus it's on a Friday too. Make a weekend out of it.
Yeah, there you go. That's cool. Well, our next catch up, what we'll do is, because you'll only be a couple of weeks out from the show, so we'll see how you're tracking. Any last minute sort of headaches or anything that you got to deal with, and the last little things you've got to finalize. It'd be interesting to see, especially for such a big project.
Absolutely. It'll be cool to see how things develop as the week the weeks come by. We have we get updates on how everything is going. Almost on a daily basis. So just recently I signed a deal with the hotel, for instance. And then the visas, the process was going through and all of these things. So it's really cool to see these things, happening step by step. I know I've seen it before with ProgPower and everything, but it's been quite interesting to see it happen at the same level of just magnitude of everything, but only with one band instead of a bunch of them. So it's quite interesting, and it's definitely giving more experience, obviously, and more insight, and that warm, fuzzy feeling of knowing you're doing something really special again. So
very cool. Well, I think we'll definitely do an update on the next monthly catch up, and see how close it all is, and see how it's all tracking, because it's as we said before, it's not your usual show. It's very, very unique and special, and I think a lot of people are certainly interested to see and continue to understand what's all behind the scenes to make such a huge event take place.
Yeah, I think, like I said, and I've heard a lot of people, journalists and other people in the industry and fans saying that this really is going to be a show that people don't want to miss. And I know I'm biased saying this, obviously, because, I'm one of the promoters. But I think it's going to be very, very special. And it's going to be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for a lot of people. So, I can't wait.
Very cool. Well, I'll put a bunch of links up so people can get acquainted, for those who aren't familiar with Avantasia, and by the time we talk next, then hopefully everyone will have either bought a ticket, or if they can't, they'll certainly become a fan and know what it's all about as well. So
awesome.
I was thinking, because we were looking at our last catch up, and we're trying to think of things to talk about on each time we get together. And I remembered our segment that we're going to put in about crazy people. I was wondering.
Oh, I have a good one this time.
Oh, you do? Oh, awesome! Because I've got another crazy Twitter one that came through, and I'll run through that one. But I'd definitely love to hear your one that you have for this month.
Okay, well, I think I might have mentioned that to you on Messenger weeks and weeks ago, but it's just the one that came to my mind just now, and I think it's definitely worth mentioning. So, if you remember, on our last catch up, we discussed the do's and don'ts of the band, and what I suggested bands to do, what I suggested bands didn't do. And shortly after that was posted, I got an email from a band. I'm not going to name any names or anything like that. I got an email where the subject of the email was, reply RE : USA work or something like that. So the person had replied to an email that I had sent, allegedly.
I like where this is going.
Yeah, this was the first time. It really was. So I opened this email and I'm like, okay, like I don't recall it, but let me see. I get a lot of emails, so the email, and I'm reading it as I'm speaking. Hey, just following up on our last conversation. You had sent us an email saying you were interested in working with us for a tour in the United States. Are we still going to be able to make that happen? So I read that, and I looked at the band's name, I checked out their music, and my reply, or what I wanted to reply, was, hey, I have never heard of your band, let alone reached out to you. Thanks, Milton. I never did. I had never heard of the band. I never reached out to them. I checked my sent messages. I'm like, did I do something and I don't remember? Like, am I going crazy? It's not something that I would normally check out or that I would normally want to work with. I don't think they weren't terrible, but I don't think they were anything really, worth investing a whole lot of time, to be honest. But I just couldn't believe the balls. I couldn't believe the guts.
They probably thought they were really smart.
So eventually, well, some people think they're really smart, yeah. So eventually, I just couldn't help myself anymore. I reached out to them, and I'm like, hi, there must be a misunderstanding. I never reached out to you guys. To be completely honest, I had never heard of you before. And I hate to bring you three bad news at the same time. But, you're not really what I'm looking for right now. Ironically enough, I never heard back from them. So to you, lovely band from, I'm not going to say where, who reached out to me and tried to be a smart ass, best of luck getting a tour on the stage.
I wonder how many other people they've tried the same tactic with.
I would be curious to see that too, actually. I'd be very curious to see how many people have done that. Especially the whole RE thing on the email subject line.
Yeah.
It takes a certain type of person to be that detail oriented, I guess, when trying to manipulate somebody.
It was probably smart in a way because it did make you think for a moment, and then you were kind of forced to have a quick listen because, just in the fear that you had said something or sent something previously and thought, oh, well, I better try and recall my memory. But even if it turned around and the band sounded okay, they've obviously taken a tactic which is not going to help them anyway, regardless of what they sound like. So they're not getting off on the right foot anyway. So while it is a bit tricky and in a very sort of sneaky way of doing it, it certainly isn't going to win them any favors.
Yeah, and after I sent that email, I thought to myself, maybe I was a little bit unfair. Maybe they reached out to the wrong booking agent or the wrong management company by mistake. Maybe they did speak to somebody. And so I pondered about that for a little bit, and then I'm like, nah, that's not the case. I think if that was the case, I would have probably heard something back like, hey, we're really sorry. We reached out to you by mistake. We meant to write to somebody else. My apologies. That's what I would have done anyway.
Absolutely. That's right. Even if, even if you weren't being truthful, it would have been a smart thing to do that anyway, just to say, oh, sorry, because they're being caught out now. To try and cover their tracks, but they didn't even do that.
It's almost like I'm giving you another chance to redeem yourself and, at least make believe that you're sorry. But they didn't take that chance either. So I guess best of luck to them, but not with this one.
Oh, very funny. Well, look, I've got one. It's not so much from a conniving point of view or being smart or anything like that. Mine's just literally crazy. So it's good because, and I've explained this before, how we work our Twitter account, and we send an automatic message every time someone follows us, and it works quite well. But it encourages a lot of and the good reason is that it encourages a lot of responses from people. But the bad side of it is it encourages a lot of responses from people. so I got one, and just for people who haven't listened to any of our previous chats, an automatic message goes out to someone who follows either my Twitter page or the band one. And it just says, thanks for following and hope you enjoy our music. And for fans of bands like Queensryche or Halloween or Maiden, you like this.
I remember that message, actually. Yeah. I remember that message.
Yeah. So it's quite good. We get a lot of positive responses from it. It kickstarts a lot of conversation, and we've won over quite a few people by doing it. So I get a message from a lady by the name of Corinne. I won't give her surname or Twitter handle, just for her benefit. But she's replied back with hi, with a little love heart and hands clapping and two hands together like somebody praying. So, okay. And then she's written after that. Now, you have to bear with me because this is a little bit lengthy, but I need to give full context of how crazy this person is. You know, spat, poison, done. Phone to my man, still nothing. He just doesn't check his phone. What are they like, men? Good thing we are the ones who have to give birth. Needed him, he nowhere. Laugh my ass off. He even texted like he texted all day then. After 4 years, nothing. So I kind of went like overboard. Let him have too much of my hurt. Bet he never speaks to me again. Poor sod. I hate it when I'm ill and no one here. I hope he gets over it. I feel worse for letting rip. Should I've engaged my brain. Still, none of us are perfect, I guess. And then there's a few emoticons of praying and the heart and the clapping hands and the thumbs up and a little smiley face.
Oh, my God.
So reading between the lines, which was extremely difficult to do so, I'm assuming that she's had a bit of a tiff with her man, and he's not happy and he's not replying, and for whatever reason, she's not feeling too well, and but she's feeling a bit bad because she had a go at him or she attacked him or anything like that. So
right.
I weighed up whether I should respond to that and just say something like, I hope you enjoy our music, or thanks for letting us know. But I made an executive decision and decided that it was probably best not to further engage with this individual. So poor old
you have chosen well.
So poor old Corinne's. I'm sure she'll pass her story on to many other people out there in Twitter land.
Where do these people come from?
And you know what? I'll tell you where they come from. The US. It's another crazy from the US. And hey, I don't like to stereotype Milton, but you guys have got a lot of crazy people that like Twitter. And it's no other country.
Oh, my God.
And I don't know what it is. And maybe it's just because Twitter's very popular in the US, but we certainly get a lot of strange interactions from people from the United States. But we love them for it.
You know, I still don't understand how much crazy there is out there. Like, it still boggles my mind, I guess, you know? And I mean this in no disrespect to people who actually have issues, but I'm talking about that shit crazy, you know? Oh, my God. Well,
I guess it's
the good news. The good news.
Yeah.
The good news is that we're never going to run out of material for this.
Exactly. There's always a silver lining.
Right.
Oh, dear. So that's my crazy person for the month, and I'll no doubt have another person or two for the next time we catch up.
I think at the end of the year, we should do the Crazy Person of the Year award. And we should pick somebody. I think we should pick somebody from our list, and we should try to contact them. And we should try to offer them the award.
I'm happy to send them something. I'll post them an award. I'll find a a secondhand trophy or a medallion.
Yeah, I think it would. I think it would be totally worth it.
I think we'll work on that one because I think that'll be a great end of year celebration.
Exactly. And can you imagine we get that person on the phone randomly and we're like, "Hi, we are calling to let you know that you have won the Crazy of the Year award."
Oh, that'll be a very colourful conversation.
That would be fantastic.
Oh, cool. Well, before we wrap up, the one last thing that I wanted to mention was any bands that we want to plug, any independent bands that we're listening to at the moment. We mentioned a couple last month that we spoke about, and I put links up for people to check out. Is there anybody in particular over the last month that you thought of that might be worthy of a quick mention?
You know, I think I'm going to break the rule this month, and I think I'm going to go with the two bands that we suggested earlier in the conversation. So I think, number one, I'm going to give that space to people who haven't heard Riverside before to go check them out. And I will strongly recommend their latest album called Love, Fear, and the Time Machine, out through Inside Out Music. And I know it's a rule-breaking thing, but I think given the circumstance, I would like to give them that space. So my signed pick of the month would be Riverside.
Fantastic. I think a worthy mention. But
I think we'll... and how about this? Next month, I'm going to pick two unsigned bands.
Sounds good. To make up for it.
But this month, I'm going to pick Riverside and obviously Advantasia as well. If people, who haven't checked them out, go check that out. But I think Riverside should be the one to
absolutely
to take that. What about you? Who do you have that is an unsung hero, so to speak?
I stayed on. I behaved and I stayed on task. I found a band. I've known this band for a while. It's another Australian band because I thought I'd highlight somebody else from our country. And the band's from Perth, so the same city as Voyager, and they're called Ragdoll. So the name, I've seen the name around for a while now, and I talked to a couple of the guys in the band just via Facebook, but I hadn't actually checked out their music. And to be honest, the name sort of threw me off a little bit. I wasn't terribly intrigued by the name, to be honest, when I first saw it. But the guys sent me out an EP of theirs, and I listened to it, and I wouldn't say metal. I would think more of Winger, but Winger's Pull album from sort of the sort of early 90s, their third album, I think. And then a mixture of that with Harum Scarum as well, so the Canadian band Harum Scarum. So
yeah, that sounds really cool.
So for me, that ticks the Andy likes box. So they're two bands I absolutely love. So I was quite, and they had a bit of a modern twist on it as well. They're young guys, but definitely pay homage to bands from that particular era, sort of the late 80s, early 90s, melodic rock AOR sort of scene. So I'll put some links up for people to check out. And I think the EP was called All I Want Is Everything. And it's just got 4 or 5 songs on there and really, really cool. And I'll flick you through a link as well. You can have a quick listen. But I thought there might be a worthy mention for this week for anyone who's especially on the melodic side and likes something more melodic than heavy. And especially for people that like their hair metal or hair rock or a bit of AOR or melodic rock from the late 80s, early 90s. This is definitely a cool pick for people to check out.
Awesome! I'm looking forward to checking that out. I've been listening to a lot of that kind of vibe stuff lately, so I'm excited to hear them.
Cool, and I think they've also done a few tours of the US as well. I think they might have. I don't know if they played Rocklahoma, but they've played a few sort of those more, I guess, those nostalgic rock festivals that seem to go around the Midwest and yeah. So I think they've had a little bit of sort of small success within those circles in the United States, but still relatively new, and they're young guys. So I'll definitely do a shout out for them on this this particular episode.
Very cool.
Yeah. Cool.
Very cool. Awesome.
Well,
yeah, I'll definitely check them out, and everybody else out there, please check them out as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll put links up to all three bands, and everyone can check out, and we'll think of some more bands to mention next month also.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, I think that's it. I think that's all the housekeeping. So I think this is it. I actually just got a text message saying that I have a little, my son is having a little bit of a fever, so I'm going to go tend to him a little bit. Fair enough.
He's not doing too great, so I'm going to jump off. But I think we covered quite a bit of ground, and we'll have some more fun stuff coming next month.
Sounds good. Thanks for your time, and hope your little one feels better soon.
Thank you very much, and everybody, thanks for listening as always. It's cool to be a recurring guest in this. I enjoy it a lot, and I hope everybody else is having fun too.
Ditto. Awesome.
All right, my friends.
All right. Take care, man.
Have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for listening. All of the notes that we spoke about, all the details and links and videos and music and resources and whatever else we covered will be in the show notes over at andysocial.net. That is the place where you'll find them. You won't find them anywhere else. Sometimes I post some links on Facebook, but I guess for the sake of making things as easy as possible for me, I focus them all on the website there. So if you need to go back and find anything in particular on previous episodes or this one in particular, you just go over to andysocial.net. On the front page will be the most recent podcast, or just click on the podcast link in the toolbar, and it will take you to all the previous podcasts where you can pick out all the previous links and resources that have been discussed on prior episodes. Lots of great feedback from all of the episodes so far. There are quite a few that are in between this recording and where I'm currently at as far as ones that have been launched. So I'm quite excited with the ones that by the time you hear this have been out. I really, really appreciate the feedback that people are giving. I've been getting a few emails and messages via social media from not only people that I know, but a lot of people that I've never actually met before or never spoken to. So it's great to see that it is starting to spread and there's more people tuning in and listening to the podcast. And as always, I'm always open ears to any suggestions or recommendations, and especially suggestions around guests and any particular topic that you think might be an interesting thing to touch on. I'm all ears, and there's no rules associated with which direction I move with future episodes either, as you would have seen to date. So continue to pass any feedback on, and I'll continue to keep providing more and more podcast episodes for you guys. If you want to show your appreciation, get onto iTunes and rate and review the podcast. Those quick interactions make a big difference to where the podcast sits in the charts and gets the podcast a lot more exposure and in turn a lot more listeners. If you don't use iTunes, whether it be Stitcher or any other podcast platform, if there's any way to interact and leave a comment or whatnot, then please do so, or sharing on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc., etc. So anything that you can do that involves a click or two will have a dramatic impact on the podcast itself. So much appreciated for those people that do take the time to help out in that regard. Lastly, we have established that May 28th will be the date of the podcast party. I believe I've mentioned that previously, but just in case I haven't, there it is again. And I'll continue to mention it on future episodes from between now and the 28th of May. Details of the location have not been disclosed yet. I've got a pretty good idea of where I want it to be, but it'll just be a case of making sure that the place is available at the particular time on that date. So where I'm thinking it will be somewhere in the Sydney CBD or in the city area. It will be very easy to get to via public transport, so I don't want to make this difficult for anybody. And it will start probably around 1 or 2 p.m. in the afternoon, and it will just run for as long as we feel like it. So really, there's no formalities around it for those that aren't aware of what it's all about. This is purely just a bit of a social gathering, a catch-up session. Anybody who listens, I'm not advertising this anywhere else. I'm not even posting about it anywhere. I'm only letting people know that are listening. So May 28th will be the date of the little podcast party. I'll have a better name for it. I just haven't had time to even think about that yet. So for the meantime, it'll be podcast party, which sounds fantastic. I'll get some party hats for everybody. And it'll just be a case of just meeting at a bar and just having a few drinks and just chatting. And that's it. There's no formalities. There's no sit down. There's no meal. There's no presentation. There's nothing like that. I might bring my mic around and have a quick chat to people depending on how it all goes. But more or less, it's just a catch-up session and just say hi to people and maybe buy a few of you guys a beer depending on how much money's in my wallet. So yes, it'll be mid-afternoon. There will be time for everybody to get on with their social engagements later that night. So that hence the reason of having it in the mid-afternoon. And yeah, I really encourage anybody who is available and free to come along, and anybody who isn't in Sydney that may be in that area around that time to take a few hours out of their day and come down and say hello as well. And depending on how this goes, well, actually, it doesn't really depend on how this goes. I'll probably do it twice a year. If it goes really, really well, then I might increase it to maybe a quarterly thing. But at this point in time, I'll do one in the first half of the year and one in the second half of the year. And regardless of whether there's one or two people, or there's 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 or whatever, we'll continue to do it, because I think it's just a great excuse to get out and have a couple of beers or whatever you drink and have a bit of a chat. So that's it. I'll continue to provide updates over the coming episodes as we get closer and closer. If there's any questions surrounding it, or any ideas or thoughts on this event, by all means reach out and we can have a chat as well. But we'll make it fun and casual and laid back, but still something special as well. But anyway, enough of that. Hope you enjoyed the podcast episode. And as I said at the start, definitely reach out to Milton and let him know you enjoyed it, especially if you got something out of it, or there was some additional questions that we might have, or suggestions for future catch-ups with Milton as well. We're definitely all ears, and we've had some pretty funny ones come through as well. So we'll continue to catch up and hope that you guys continue to enjoy. But until next week, thank you very much, and continue to pass those episodes around to other people, and the next one will be out very soon. Thanks, guys. Take care.